The car NHRA banned after just one pass. Imagine this. You build the fastest car on Earth. One run down the strip. The crowd erupts. You just destroyed the world record by 7 miles per hour. You are a legend. And 24 hours later, banned. Across America. For 6 years. February 7, 1957. Emery Cook pulls his rear-engine monster to the line at Lyons drag strip. That smell? Pure nitromethane. Liquid rocket fuel in a Chrysler Hemi. Veterans step back. They know this is either genius or suicide. Green light. The car detonates. Flames. Smoke. A sound that splits the sky. 12 seconds later. 166 miles per hour. The old record? 160. Officials check the equipment twice. This cannot be real. But while fans celebrate, insurance companies are making calls. Track owners are panicking. Within 24 hours, Nitro is banned nationwide. One pass created an outlaw racing empire that changed motorsports forever. One man refused to slow down and pay the price. This is his story. And it is absolutely wild. The golden age of drag racing. To truly understand why one car could cause such absolute chaos and panic in the racing world, we need to go back to a time when drag racing was still finding its identity, still figuring out what it wanted to become. See, in the early 1950s, drag racing was not the polished, corporate-sponsored, televised sport you see on networks today. It was raw. It was dangerous. It was unpredictable. And it was absolutely exploding in popularity all across post-war America. A guy named Wally Parks had founded the National Hot Rod Association, the NHRA, back in 1951 with a simple but critically important mission. Get young kids off the dangerous streets where they were racing illegally and getting killed, and get them onto organized, sanctioned tracks where at least there were some basic safety measures in place. By the mid-50s, tracks like Lyons Drag Strip, Santa Ana Drag Strip, and Pomona Raceway were absolutely packed every single weekend with guys who had permanent grease under their fingernails and pure gasoline running through their veins. These were true enthusiasts. Now, here is where things get really interesting from a technical standpoint. Racers were constantly experimenting with different fuels, trying to find more power, more speed. They started with regular pump gas from the corner station. Sure. Then they moved to alcohol-based fuels, which ran cooler and made more power. But then there was this other stuff, this mysterious chemical compound called nitromethane. It was originally developed by chemists as an industrial solvent and as rocket fuel for military applications. And some absolutely crazy, brilliant hot rodders figured out you could actually run it in a regular internal combustion engine. The power increase was absolutely insane, almost unbelievable. Nitromethane has 2.3 times the energy content of gasoline per unit volume. But it came with serious downsides. It was unpredictable and temperamental. It was genuinely dangerous to store and handle. And it was expensive as hell. By early 1957, top fuel speeds were gradually creeping up toward that magical 160 miles per hour barrier. Fast, absolutely. But nothing that truly scared track owners and insurance companies. Not yet, anyway. Everyone in the sport was pushing limits, testing boundaries, seeing how far they could go. But nobody, absolutely nobody, knew just how far was too far. That critical question was about to get answered in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. Meet the rebels. Enter two remarkable men who were about to completely shatter every existing record and break every established rule in the book of drag racing. And here is the critically important part to understand. They were not doing it because they were reckless cowboys with some kind of death wish. They were doing it because they were legitimate engineers who deeply understood physics, chemistry, metallurgy, and the brutal, unforgiving mathematics of speed. Emery Cook was a master fabricator and genuine innovator from Southern California. This guy did not just randomly bolt parts together and hope for the best like some backyard mechanic. He understood complex concepts like weight distribution, aerodynamics, chassis flex, and structural integrity. He could look at a car and immediately see not just what it was, but what it could potentially become with the right modifications. His partner in this incredible adventure, Fran Hernandez, was an absolute mechanical wizard who could make engines not just run smoothly, but sing beautifully. Or, in this particular case, scream bloody murder. Together, they designed and built something truly revolutionary for that era. At a time when literally everyone else in drag racing was running completely traditional front-engine roadsters with the driver sitting behind the engine, like always, Cook and Hernandez made a radical decision that went against all conventional wisdom. They went rear-engine. The driver would sit up front in a relatively safer position. The massive, powerful 354 cubic inch Chrysler Hemi engine would sit behind him, positioned directly over the rear axle for maximum traction. This was not just slightly different from convention. This was radical, revolutionary thinking that went against everything everyone thought they knew about drag racing. Why make such a dramatic change? Better weight transfer during hard acceleration. Significantly better traction at launch when you dump the clutch. More of that massive horsepower actually making it to the pavement instead of just uselessly spinning the tires and making smoke. But here is their real secret weapon. The thing that made this car truly special and genuinely terrifying to anyone who understood what they were doing. They were running 98% pure nitromethane through that Hemi. Not a conservative blend with gasoline. Not a safe mixture. Nearly absolutely pure nitro. Most brave racers were running maybe 30% nitro, maybe 40% if they had real courage and good life insurance. Cook and Hernandez were running what amounted to concentrated liquid explosives through their engine. The power output was astronomical, completely off the charts for that era. It was unpredictable and temperamental, changing with weather and altitude. And it was absolutely, genuinely terrifying to anyone who truly understood the chemistry and physics involved. While everyone else in the sport was playing it relatively safe, incrementally improving their elapsed times by tenths of seconds, these two brilliant rebels were building what amounted to a land-based guided missile with wheels. And they were about to light the fuse and see exactly what happened. The beast is born. This was not just a regular car that you could casually drive down to the local strip on Saturday afternoon. This was a genuine science experiment mounted precariously on four wheels that could either make glorious history and revolutionize the entire sport, or blow up catastrophically trying. And let me tell you something important. With nitromethane, that second option of catastrophic failure was always on the table. Always a very real possibility every single time you fired it up. That 354 cubic inch Chrysler Hemi was already a legendary beast, even running on plain pump gasoline like a normal engine. But on pure nitro, you have to truly understand what nitromethane does at a fundamental chemical level. It carries its own oxygen molecules built right into its chemical structure. That means you can run an incredibly, almost impossibly rich fuel mixture, way beyond what gasoline chemistry allows or tolerates. The result? Massive cylinder pressure that could literally crack engine blocks. Massive heat that could melt pistons into slag. And massive, earth-shaking power that rattled your bones. We are talking about double, sometimes even triple the horsepower of a comparable gasoline engine of the exact same displacement. But that incredible power came with a serious, dangerous price that could not be avoided. Nitromethane is highly corrosive to certain materials. It eats rubber gaskets like candy. It destroys seals rapidly. It attacks anything rubber or synthetic with a vengeance. It is chemically unstable and extremely temperamental. Temperature changes affect how it performs. Humidity affects it. Barometric pressure affects it. Hell, some experienced racers swore that even the phase of the moon affected how their nitro engines ran. And if something went mechanically wrong during a pass, if you got a backfire in the intake manifold, or if the fuel mixture suddenly went lean for any reason, you did not just quietly lose your expensive engine. You lost absolutely everything in a massive, spectacular fireball that could be seen for miles around. Cook and Hernandez spent long, grueling months testing their creation, carefully tuning it, constantly breaking expensive parts, and rebuilding everything stronger each time. The revolutionary rear engine design helped tremendously with their traction problems. With all that considerable weight positioned directly over the rear axle and rear tires, they were getting traction and grip that other traditional front-engine guys could only dream about achieving. Other experienced racers watched their testing runs with a strange mixture of admiration and genuine fear. One salty veteran racer supposedly looked at their unusual car and said, "Those boys are either going to set a world record that stands for years, or they're going to kill themselves trying." Might very well be both, actually. By early February 1957, after months of hard work and development, they felt ready. The car was mechanically sorted. The tune was finally dialed in perfectly. All they needed now was one single good pass to show the entire racing world what they had built. But here is the thing nobody could have predicted. Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, expected what was about to happen next. Not the competitors. Not the experienced track officials. Not even Cook and Hernandez themselves fully understood what they had created. Section 5. The Legendary Pass. February 7, 1957. Lyons drag strip is absolutely packed to capacity with spectators. It is a Thursday night, and the stands are completely full of hot rod enthusiasts, fellow racers, mechanics, and anyone who genuinely loves the smell of burning rubber and high-octane race fuel filling the air. The Southern California night air is cool and dense, which is absolutely perfect conditions for making maximum power. Dense, cool air means significantly more oxygen molecules available, and more oxygen means bigger, more powerful explosions in the cylinders. Emery Cook carefully pulls the unusual rear-engine roadster up to the starting line. Even just sitting there at idle, the engine sounds absolutely angry and violent, constantly popping and banging with that distinctive, unmistakable nitro crackle that experienced racers recognize instantly. The chemical smell is completely overwhelming to anyone standing nearby. If you have never personally smelled burning nitromethane, imagine the most intense, sharp chemical smell you can possibly think of in your mind. Then multiply that sensation by 10. It burns your nose and sinuses. It makes your eyes water and sting. And somehow, paradoxically, you absolutely cannot help but love it because it means something fast is about to happen. The starter raises the traditional flag high. The Christmas tree counts down its colored lights slowly. Green light flashes. Cook violently dumps the clutch, and all hell immediately breaks loose on that strip. The rear tires hook up and grab the asphalt like they are literally welded to the track surface. The car does not just accelerate normally like a regular vehicle. It absolutely erupts forward with violent, shocking force. Thick black smoke billows from the spinning tires. Bright orange and yellow flames shoot dramatically from the open headers. And a sound like the very sky itself is being torn completely in half. The massive crowd is instantly on their feet, screaming and cheering wildly. Experienced track officials are intently watching their timing clocks and equipment. The car is moving fast, much faster than anything they have ever witnessed before at this track. It crosses the finish line, and the electronic timing lights flash their result. The officials stare at the scoreboard in disbelief. They look at each other with confused, shocked expressions. Someone immediately runs to check the timing equipment for malfunctions, because the number that is showing simply cannot possibly be correct. It has to be wrong. 166.97 miles per hour. The previous standing world record was just barely touching 160 miles per hour. Cook just absolutely destroyed it by almost 7 full miles per hour. In the world of drag racing, that is not incremental improvement or normal progress. That is not evolution. That is complete revolution. The crowd is going absolutely bananas, celebrating wildly. People are hugging strangers. But the track officials? They are definitely not cheering or celebrating. They are genuinely worried, concerned, maybe even scared of what they just witnessed. One official walks over to Cook and says, "Seriously, you need to run it again immediately. We have to verify this result. This seems impossible." So Cook does exactly that without hesitation. The backup verification pass? 166.13 miles per hour. Consistent, repeatable, absolutely real and legitimate. This car was not some lucky fluke or timing error or equipment malfunction. It was the genuine future of drag racing. And that future absolutely terrified everyone who was watching it unfold that night. The panic. While the enthusiastic fans were loudly celebrating and congratulating Emery Cook on becoming an instant drag racing legend, behind closed doors in the track offices, track owners and insurance officials were having a very, very different conversation. And that urgent conversation went something like this. Gentlemen, we have got ourselves a serious problem here that we need to address immediately before someone gets killed. See, 166 miles per hour really does not sound incredibly fast by modern standards and today racing metrics. Modern top fuel cars routinely hit well over 330 miles per hour. But in 1957, drag strips were absolutely not built, designed, or equipped to safely handle cars moving anywhere near those speeds. The safety equipment and infrastructure was absolutely minimal by today racing standards. Guardrails and barriers to protect spectators? Maybe some stacked hay bales if you were lucky and the track owner cared. Catch nets at the end of the strip? Sometimes, maybe, if the track owner had budget left over. Professional fire suppression equipment and trained crews? Usually just one nervous guy standing there with a single fire extinguisher, hoping he would not need to use it. The entire infrastructure simply was not there to handle cars moving that fast safely. Insurance companies very quickly got wind of Cook Racing record-breaking run. And they immediately, within hours, started making very serious phone calls to track owners all across California. Track owners were told in absolutely no uncertain terms, if you continue to let cars run nitromethane fuel and speeds keep climbing exponentially like this, we will immediately pull your liability coverage. No insurance meant no track could legally operate. Period. End of discussion. No negotiation possible. C.J. Pappy Hart, the experienced owner of Santa Ana drag strip, did not even hesitate or wait to see what happened next. Within 24 hours, literally one single day after Cook Racing legendary pass, he officially banned nitromethane fuel from his track. Just like that, with one announcement. No nitro allowed anymore, effective immediately. Mickey Thompson over at Lions Drag Strip followed suit almost immediately after hearing the news. Then other track owners started falling like dominoes across the state and country, one after another. And here is where it gets truly official and nationwide in scope. March 1957, just 1 month later, Wally Parks, the actual founder of the NHRA himself, extended the nitromethane ban to all NHRA-sanctioned tracks across the entire country. His publicly stated reasoning was simple and direct. We cannot safely control this anymore. It is too fast, too dangerous, too unpredictable for our current infrastructure and safety capabilities. Think carefully about that timeline for a moment. One single car, one record-breaking pass, 24 hours later, officially banned at multiple major tracks. Within 1 month, banned nationwide by the entire NHRA organization. Emery Cook made glorious history and got severely punished for it in the exact same breath. And here is the real kicker that nobody expected. This ban was not going to last just a few months until things cooled down. It lasted 6 long years. From 1957 to 1963, if you wanted to run nitromethane fuel in your car, the NHRA wanted absolutely nothing to do with you. The outlaw years. But here is the absolutely beautiful thing about real racers, the thing that makes them special and different from ordinary people. You simply cannot kill their deep need for speed. You cannot extinguish that fire burning inside them. You can only redirect it to other places. And that is precisely exactly what happened after the NHRA nitro ban. The NHRA banned nitro fuel, so racers collectively said, okay, fine then. We will just go somewhere else where we are actually welcome. The American Hot Rod Association, the AHRA, saw a massive golden opportunity developing and grabbed it enthusiastically with both hands. They welcomed nitro racers and nitro fuel with completely open arms. Independent drag strips that were not NHRA sanctioned did exactly the same thing. Suddenly, almost overnight, there was this entire underground outlaw fuel racing scene rapidly developing across America. And it was absolutely wild and exciting. This turbulent period is when genuine legends were born and made their names in racing history. Don Big Daddy Garlits became a household name. Chris the Golden Greek Karamesines. TV Tommy Evo with his multiple engine cars. Connie Swingle Kalita. These brilliant guys were not playing by NHRA corporate rules because they absolutely did not have to anymore. They had other options. They were aggressively pushing limits, constantly setting new records, and putting on the most exciting, spectacular shows in all of drag racing. Speeds climbed rapidly to 170 miles per hour, then 180, then 190, then over 200 miles per hour in just a few years. And the massive crowds followed the speed and excitement wherever it went. And here is the deeply ironic part that NHRA leadership did not anticipate. NHRA track attendance started noticeably dropping across the country. Race fans were not stupid people. They knew exactly where the real action was happening. They knew where the fastest, most exciting cars were actually running. And it definitely was not at boring NHRA tracks anymore. It was at the outlaw shows, the AHRA-sanctioned events, the independent strips where Nitro ruled supreme and speeds kept climbing. Track owners, who had rushed to quickly ban nitromethane out of fear, started gradually realizing they had made an absolutely massive business mistake. They had voluntarily banned the single most exciting, most popular, most crowd-pleasing aspect of the entire sport. Emery Cook and all the other talented Nitro racers kept racing, kept innovating, kept breaking records, and pushing boundaries further. They just were not doing it at NHRA-sanctioned events anymore. For 6 long years, from 1957 to 1963, the NHRA sat on the sidelines watching helplessly while the sport they had helped create and nurture was rapidly evolving and progressing without them. It was a complete business disaster born purely from fear and panic instead of measured planning. And absolutely everyone in the racing industry knew it and talked about it behind closed doors. By 1963, the NHRA organization faced a harsh reality they could no longer ignore or avoid. They had a critical choice to make: genuinely evolve and adapt, or become completely irrelevant and obsolete. Race fans desperately wanted Nitro racing back. Professional racers wanted to run Nitro fuel. Major sponsors wanted to be associated with the fastest, most exciting, most popular form of motorsports racing. And absolutely all of that thrilling action was currently happening completely outside of NHRA sanctioning and control. So in 1963, Wally Parks and the NHRA leadership did something quite remarkable that showed real character and wisdom. They publicly admitted the blanket ban had been a significant mistake. They officially lifted it. But critically, they did not just recklessly open the floodgates without any safety planning. They simultaneously implemented comprehensive, well-thought-out safety rules and regulations, significantly better barriers and catch nets, dramatically improved fire suppression equipment and trained crews, much stricter, more thorough tech inspection procedures, mandatory modern safety gear for all drivers, including fire suits and helmets. They did not ban the fuel anymore. Instead, they intelligently managed the inherent risks. And Nitro racing absolutely exploded in popularity and performance. What started as experimental top fuel racing became the premier, most prestigious class in all of drag racing. The cars got progressively faster year after year. First 200 miles per hour fell, then 250, then 300. Today, right now, modern top fuel dragsters run on 90% nitromethane concentration, produce over 11,000 horsepower from supercharged engines, and hit speeds dramatically exceeding 330 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. 4 seconds to cover a quarter mile from a standing start. That is not racing. That is controlled, spectacular violence. Emery Cook did not just set a simple record that night in February 1957. He fundamentally proved that genuine innovation and progress cannot be permanently stopped by fear and bureaucracy. He definitively showed that real progress, meaningful progress, absolutely requires taking calculated risks. Yes, his achievement scared people. Yes, it seriously disrupted the comfortable establishment. But it also directly created the most exciting, spectacular motorsport on the entire planet. That one legendary pass, those 166 miles per hour, changed absolutely everything about drag racing. It forced the entire industry to directly confront its serious limitations and infrastructure problems. It created an entire outlaw racing culture that fearlessly pushed boundaries further. And ultimately, it led directly to the modern era of professional drag racing that millions of dedicated fans absolutely love today. Every single time you watch a top-fueled dragster launch explosively off the starting line with flames shooting 30 feet behind it, shaking the ground, assault on your senses, remember this. It all started with one determined man who absolutely refused to slow down, refused to accept limits, and showed everyone what was truly possible. So what can we really learn from a car that was simply too fast for its own good? What does Emery Cook Racing's incredible story teach us about innovation, regulation, and the eternal tension between the two competing forces? First critical lesson: fear-based decisions rarely age well over time. The NHRA banned nitromethane purely out of panic and fear, not out of careful strategic planning. They reacted emotionally instead of thoughtfully adapting to new technology. And that knee-jerk reaction cost them 6 valuable years of relevance and leadership in their own sport that they had created. Could they have implemented reasonable safety measures back in 1957 instead of waiting until 1963? Absolutely, without question. But fear and panic made them choose the easy, simple path. Ban it completely and desperately hope the problem just goes away on its own. Second important lesson: you absolutely cannot stop genuine progress and innovation. You can only choose whether you want to lead it and shape it, or follow it reluctantly. Those outlaw racers did not stop innovating, did not stop pushing boundaries just because the NHRA said no to them. They found other venues, other sanctioning organizations, other creative ways to push forward with their work. Real innovation always finds a path forward. The only question is whether the established powers will be a constructive part of that path, or become an obstacle that gets bypassed. Third fascinating lesson: sometimes being officially banned is actually the best thing that can possibly happen to something. That nitromethane ban created enormous mystique around nitro racing, built massive pent-up demand, and ultimately made nitro racing significantly more popular, not less popular like the NHRA had hoped. When the NHRA finally lifted the ban 6 years later, fans were absolutely hungry for it, starving for that excitement. The prohibition period made the eventual triumphant return even sweeter and more celebrated. We see this exact same pattern repeating today with electric vehicles in traditional racing series, with autonomous racing technology, with new revolutionary safety innovations and designs. Every single advancement faces initial resistance from those who are comfortable with the existing status quo and do not want change. But history consistently shows us that the Emery Cooks of the world, the true innovators who refuse to accept no for an answer, they are the ones who ultimately shape the future of their fields, not the conservative bureaucrats and administrators who initially banned them. The real lesson here? Fear of progress is natural and human, but it should never be the basis for policy. Innovation requires courage. Leadership requires vision. And sometimes you have to let people push the boundaries to find out where the real limits actually are. 166.97 miles per hour. One single pass down a quarter-mile drag strip. One 24-hour ban that unexpectedly turned into 6 long years. One complete revolution that permanently changed motorsports forever. Emery Cook did not just build a fast car that eventful February night back in 1957. He built a genuine revolution on 4 wheels that changed everything. He conclusively proved that established rules are not always right or fair. He proved that fear and panic should not dictate progress and innovation. And he proved that sometimes you absolutely have to go too far, have to push past accepted boundaries to find out where the real limits actually are. Next time you're sitting at a drag strip in person or watching coverage on television, and you see a top-fueled dragster sitting at the starting line, literally shaking the ground with 11,000 horsepower of barely controlled fury, Take a moment to remember this incredible story. Remember that all of it, every bit of modern top fuel racing, traces directly back to one determined man who mixed up some dangerous nitromethane, bolted in a powerful Chrysler Hemi engine, and showed the entire world what was truly possible when you refused to accept limitations. Now, I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments. What is your favorite banned vehicle story from racing history? Have you ever personally seen a top fuel car make a run in person? If so, what did it feel like? What is the fastest speed you have ever personally gone down a drag strip, whether as a driver or passenger? Drop your stories and experiences in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into fascinating drag racing history, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want more detailed stories about the cars, the brave racers, and the pivotal moments that permanently changed automotive history forever. Coming up next on the channel, the race car so incredibly dangerous that even professional drivers refuse to get behind the wheel and drive it. Trust me, you absolutely do not want to miss that one. Until then, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up out there. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.